it's bad. Me no know what them a talk about. When them say it's mad. Whenever I hear the word of problem. It is Happy New Year to you guys. It is Merry Christmas. I wasn't there for that time. It is counting down the old years and ringing in the new year. It was one hectic end of 2022 for me, but I've made it. You're in tune to WINN from 98.9 on your radio dial. It's Friday, TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. It's hot in here. I'm trying to see if I can get on the AC. Yeah, I'm late. Everything is not working out for me today, but we all have to make sure that we stay positive. It's Friday the 13th, and we always equate Friday the 13th with negativity. But for me, we live in a world right now where it's filled with negative energy, and we ourselves have to try to make a difference by making sure we ourselves stay positive and conversations that we have are positive. I looked at 2022 and I did some soul searching, and I consultation with self. And I asked myself the question about my achievements of 2022, my setbacks of 2022, my progress of 2022, and position myself what really happened to me in 2022. And my greatest achievement was the fact that I stayed alive. And for 2023, I am going to do the same thing. I am not, and I make myself that promise, and I promise to self, I am not going to get caught up in negative energy. We are living in a world where the world is not changing anymore. The world has changed. We live in an environment that is absolutely toxic. It is very negative. It's hatred, it's greed, it's power, it's about self. And that is one of the things that I've recognized, that it's not just started in 2022 or 2023. It has been going on for a while, but it's getting worse. And we're getting sucked in. A lot of us are not realizing what is happening. When you are in tune, you recognize that there are situations that are bigger than us, and St. Kitts is a small drop in the bucket. St. Kitts is not a nation by itself. We are very, very dependent. And when we look at the areas that we are very dependent on and we see what's happening there, we understand what is going to happen to us next. So we understand that unity is strength, and that division is powerless. When you are divided, a nation that is divided will fall. And when I look and listen to some of the things and the conversation that is being had about us Kittitians, citizens, brothers and sisters, neighbors, people who you have grown up with, and you recognize how divided we are by many other entities. Politics is one of the biggest ones. Division is on a rampage. Everybody wants to destroy. Everybody wants to expose, and everybody wants to shame. It is not good. It is not good. Because one has to recognize that before they were where they're at, they were there. And we have to start to live together in unity. That was not really the topic. As a matter of fact, I've had a guest that I supposed to come in, but I suppose one of the reasons why she's not here yet is because I needed to get this in. We've looked, I called my favorite doctor the other day, Dr. Cameron Wilkerson, and I recognized that he has taken up residency in New York. And as a matter of fact, he's now working he is actually starting to work in the hospital, Harlem, in New York. He's doing a good job. But it is sad because, let me tell you something, and I am not going to, everybody says the same thing, and every administration going, and the first thing that I realize that is neglected is health. We are borderline a pandemic. We don't know what's happening, or we are not in tune with what is happening in China. Maybe we are turning a blind eye. I think America is doing the same thing, but now they are seriously affected. Europe is seriously affected. Japan has been recording deaths significant deaths because of COVID. We have had here in St. Kitts and Nevis our share, because when I would have investigated, inquired, I recognized COVID actually is in St. Kitts, but it's kept on a down low. People, we have thrown our caution to the wind. We have forgotten protocols. We wanted to party, which we did. We have had a great time, but I've always been told that after fun, there's always is either benefits or you have to suffer the consequences of what we would have done. So now that we know people I got sick. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I couldn't come in and do my program, because I was sick. My whole household was sick. We don't know what it was, but we stayed inside because you don't know what it is. And all my friends that I've spoken to have gotten sick. But our sickness is not yet like what I've been hearing overseas. I mean, China can't seem to burn their dead fast enough. People are living in houses with dead people waiting to get their bodies cremated. As a matter of fact, people are cremating their own deads because of the fact that they're burning their own deads because they can't seem to get to a crematory. And this is the seriousness of the problem. You look in California and it's flooded out. The war in Ukraine is heating up. There's no sign of any time that it's going to end. We're talking about food that is going to be seriously affected. We've heard and we've read, I don't know how true it is, but people are talking about it. It's on the news, where you can't produce food fast enough, so therefore we are going to be eating poison, because foods are made in labs that definitely they're not natural, and our bodies are natural, and synthetic foods actually pose a serious problem to us. Cancer is on the rise. Young people are dying. I can't seem to understand what is happening, but the whole world is dying. Earth is dying. And one of the biggest problems is the toxicity, the negative energy that is there, and it only comes from us as human. We want to kill each other. It's about fight, it's about hate, it's about greed, it's about power, it's about money. But at the end of the day, money has no value to some people at this point in time. People are fighting for health. People just want to live, and it doesn't matter how much money they have. Michael Jackson is dead. He had tons of money. He couldn't save himself. And these are the problems that we are facing. We have to learn to love. The world needs love. Let's start from here on a small island called St. Kitts. We can start small and we can be of huge impact. Let us start to love. These talk shows that we are having, spewing hatred, social media, it's hatred. The whole world has become one cesspool of toxins, and we as humans, we are breathing in and we're spewing out. Let's make that difference that the world needs. We need to be different. We need to be our sister's friend. We need to be our brother's keeper. And that is where we need to be. And in order for us to get there, let's start with our own family and with ourselves. Let us start to love ourselves and start to love others. Discussions are necessary. Everybody has their own opinion that should be respected. And I can't seem to understand why one set of people think that they should talk and others should mute. That is not right. We are moving into dictatorship. It has to stop, people. You have to stand up and stand out. Slavery happened because we were too docile. We didn't fight hard enough. We allow a minority to conquer a majority, and it's going to happen again if we all sit down and shut up. And that is something that we have to start seriously looking at. It is not going to happen under my watch, and I don't care and I care. I shouldn't use those words that I don't care. I do care. But I would wish that people should respect other people, not recognizing power is not all. Power can only take you thus far. As a matter of fact, power has to propelled, and it takes people to propel you there. People make you powerful. Don't ever forget that. Power is not something you just rise up to. People make you powerful, and people can make you dependent. Remember that. We are not islands or nations by ourselves. We are a group, and if that was so Christians, believers who believe it, Jesus didn't, he created Adam alone according to the Bible, and he recognized that man needed a helpmate, companion, and so he created Eve according to the Bible. Every religion would talk about it. It was no one thing. Even though people think that we are hybrids, hybrids was necessary for two people. We have to recognize that that's where we're at, and that's what we have to give into. We have to recognize that we need people. We are not a nation by ourselves, and it's absolutely necessary. But in order for you people to be around you, you have to create that environment that is conducive. I look across from me and I see one beautiful young lady who I always admire. I loved her since she was a child until now. I still love her even more. The more she grows is the more my love grows for her. I love her so much. Jamal, good morning and welcome to Your Views.
Good morning. Happy New Year to
Thank you.
and to everyone.
Thank you. You know, I got caught up and I forgot to tell you that you're in tune to WINN 98.9, and the program that you're listening to is Your Views. And your host is Sandra Creeley Atherton. Sometimes you get so caught up in the moment, and I did get caught up in the moment. It was, for me, it was hectic. I was all over the place, and I came in, and I'm still looking up on the clock. Since last year, 2022, it's becoming an irritation, and I'm looking at the clock, and I don't know what time it is. It's a clock. Can someone donate a clock to WINN FM, please? Because the one that we have here is not working. Maybe it's just batteries if you want to. But any one of those company over there who wants to always hear what time it is, can you please donate a clock to WINN FM, please? Thank you. It's absolutely necessary. Jamal.
Hello.
I am your sister, not your competition. I don't think that Kittians understand or recognize the kind of talent that we have here, and we have out there. That is the sad part about it. Is the talent that we have out there, and we keep shut out, and do not invite and encourage to come back home. I am so proud of you. I feel like a mother who would have achieved the greatest things in life. I knew that you were that kind of persistent person, a person who doesn't stop until it's completed in every aspect of your life. You always, it's the strangest thing though, I'm your sister, not your competition. And your life has always been in competitions. What inspired you? And tell people about the book.
Well, you said it. You Are My Sister, Not My Competition is a book that is based upon the interpersonal relationships of women. And as you just mentioned, I come from that background of competition. But it's not a competition that is just happening on stages. This is a competition that I saw just everywhere, whether it was in St. Kitts. You know, I've had the opportunity to live in 3 different countries in my life now. And everywhere I go, it's the same narrative, just in different ways. Sometimes it's right in your face and it's just very obvious. And other times it's very stealth. And it's sometimes it's very provocative and sometimes it's not. But what this is talking about is not just judging other women, because I have to include myself in that narrative, because not only was I witness to this competition, but I was also sometimes a part of that competition and that rivalry and that judgment of other women and dissecting and assessing other women, and then looking at myself and judging myself based on where I saw myself in comparison to other women. From the moment we are old enough to understand conflict, we see this. We see grown women surrounding us. We see the things they argue with each other about. Whose home is the largest? Whose boyfriend is the newest or the shiniest? Who has the nicest car? Whose job is better? Who's making more money? Who dresses nicer? And all this does, it starts to create this foundation where insecurities and these vulnerabilities start to seep in, and they create so much trauma, because the hate turns out to be the hate that we give ourselves, because we start deflecting all of this onto other women because of how we feel about ourselves and what we feel like we're lacking. And that's what I experienced. And as much as I come from a background of pageantry, that competition for me started Like I said, the moment I was old enough to understand conflict, I was a child in school who was teased because my mom didn't have a house phone.
Wow.
And I had to go to my aunt to, use her telephone when a teacher needed to contact my mom and things like that. I was upset if I didn't get a new pair of school shoes every September, not because there was anything necessarily wrong with my old ones, but because you know what you have to look forward to if you are that child that isn't wearing that new pair of shoes come September. So it's these types of things, and I wanted to address not just the competition, but the sources, the traumas that they inflict, and then how do we move beyond that? How do we acknowledge and then fix the problem? Because I think the issue hasn't just been, well, we need to fix this and we don't know how. It's acknowledging it, because there are a lot of women out there who will still look me in the face and say, well, I have great relationships with women. I have great friendships. Really? How often do we hear women say, I don't keep close companionship with other women. I much prefer to talk to men. I much prefer surrounding myself with male friends and companions. If we can't manage to accept and love and appreciate each other, how could we really be rallying against the world and encouraging men and the rest of the world to rally for us if we can't be rallying for each other? So that's essentially where the concept, came from, just my personal experiences and then observing the world that I live in. Because as I was trying to change myself, I realized the world wasn't necessarily changing with me. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, the process and the steps that I'm taking to improve myself and change my mindset, maybe if I shared that information,
Wow.
then the world can slowly start to kind of catch up.
Wow.
Or make those changes themselves. And it's going to be a process. I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash with certain things. And then, I've been getting such positive feedback just with women telling me, oh yeah, I have kids who are in school, and some of these references and you bridging these points with your own personal stories, my children have come home and told me certain things. Or women in relationships who have said to me, yes, I've deflected a lot of my traumas onto my husband or my boyfriend because I wasn't ready to deal with the things that were really paining me as a woman. Because the competition doesn't just affect our friendships with other women. They trickle into the other areas of our lives. Because when you become insecure, now that's affecting your relationships with your husbands, your parents, your family members, your children, your boyfriends. So it affects everything, and it changes the trajectory of the type of person that you could have potentially become had you not had this looming over you.
See, the competition starts with you. A lot of time, we're not aware of the fact that we're competing so much with ourselves.
It is with ourselves.
I want to be this. I want to be that. We never appreciate what we have. Mm-hmm. We always want to be somebody else. And it's the strangest thing, though, is that when you get that, because you're not even aware that you have gotten it. Oh, I want a nice car. You got it. Yeah. I want a nicer car. You got that. Well, I want a Jeep like Jamal's. And it happens there where we are never satisfied. Mm-hmm. We want to become something that, not that we can never, because whatever we want to be, we can be, but something that we don't really want. We just want it because somebody else have it. And it's within ourselves. Yeah. I really love the book. And for those of you who have not read it or who haven't heard about it, I think you should start thinking seriously about it. Jamal, you could tell them it's out. The book is out.
Yes, the book is out, and it came out on December 4th. Mm-hmm. It is now on Amazon and other retailers, so you can definitely get it there. Once you've completed your read, you can leave a review. The book is available in ebook, in paperback, hardcover, and in audio version. And the audio version is narrated by myself. So
wow.
It's an easy read. It's an easy listen. But the book also comes with a companion, a free gift that I put together. And it's an affirmation that I recorded accidentally, but also kind of on purpose, because it was on purpose for myself. Mm-hmm. But when my editor got wind of it, she said, there's no way you can keep this to yourself, because women are going to, when you mention things like meditation and affirmations and being able to speak these positivities over your own life, there are women who then go, yeah, but how do you do that? How do you meditate? How do you speak affirmations? What do you say? And I thought to myself, I know how frustrating it is, for example, to, go online and look up, let's say something like, I'm interested in learning stocks or
Yeah.
investing. And you can spend an hour listening to one of those billionaires, talking about investing. And by the time you're done, you're still left with burning questions. Well,
More.
what did you do? What should I invest in? How
Yeah.
much money do I need?
Yeah.
And you're not getting those burning questions answered. So I did the work for women. So even though it's my voice narrating those affirmations, it's our words. It's the narrative that we should be speaking over our own lives, because we live in a society that is very unafraid and unapologetic about speaking negativity over our lives. So we have to take that power back and start speaking positivity over our own lives. So I put this collection of affirmations together, paired it with a beautiful piece of music, and it's such a beautiful thing to just listen to at that point just before you go to bed, because it's at that stage where your mind is more open, your subconsciousness is more open to absorbing that and really taking that in. So you wake up and you're not really sure, as you consistently listen to it, you're not really sure why you're waking up with this, newfound level of positivity and confidence, but that's what it is, because your subconscious mind is now taking on new data about yourself. And the more you say it, the more you practice it, the more you live it, you become that. And that's why even in the affirmations, I don't speak in the future. I speak in the now. So the affirmations is actually entitled I am, because, it says things like, I am beautiful. I am enough. I am strong. I am feminine. I am soft. I can be so many different things, but it's me. I am all of these things. And I am not an accident. I'm here on purpose. I have a purpose. I'm happy about my life. I'm successful in all of the areas of my life. My family's happy. My family's healthy. All of these things we have to be constantly speaking over our own lives, because, like I said, people are very eager these days to remind you of all of your setbacks and your downfalls and the losses. So you have to celebrate your wins, and you really have to be the one sometimes propping yourself up. Not arrogance, but confidence.
Humility. One has to start being humble. And that's what I said earlier. It starts with us. It starts with you. You have to have that understanding that you are enough and that you are beautiful. Beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. It's a saying that I've held on to all of my life, and people would see you for what they want or how they want to see you, but you see yourself for where you are and who you are and who you want to be. And affirmations are something that where the world is turning to now. Meditation is another area. We are a generation of people who can't blame ourselves because of the fact we don't have enough information and we are just trying to find our way through it here. We're in the era of Aquarius, it's enlightenment. We're starting to see things differently. There are lots of things that have been hidden from us, and we are basically blindly, we are going through and trying to find out who we are. And that is one of the reasons why I can't seem to understand why some people feel like they know it all. We are still learning. There's so much that has been hidden from us. We, as you know, you can't open any one book, not even the Bible, and understand who you are, from whence you came, and where you're going. We know we are a group of lost souls, and when people are lost, they tend to cling to each other because we like that, the security of knowing that you have company.
Yeah.
And not competition. And that is one of the reasons why I so much love this book. Women, we have to start looking at the positive sides of us. There was a discussion on Facebook, and maybe it's a good thing that I have you here. It's about carnival, the way women dress themselves, the way they gyrate, and what fun has become. And the sacrifice that would have been made so that one can enjoy walking half naked and exposing themselves and gyrating and losing themselves I would say, other people would say finding themselves. And we call it culture. We are not accustomed to anything like that. And it's one of the things that we get caught up in, traditions that we don't understand and culture that we definitely don't have an understanding of. What is your take on... I'm going to put you in the hot seat. Were you here for Carnival?
I was here to actually, I went to the parade on one day, so I actually got to see some of the...
What was your impression?
Well, even my throat recognized that this was gonna be a hot button question. But I think a lot of things are always open to interpretation.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a clear line between opinions and facts. And just because you're emotionally charged about an opinion, it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't mean that the facts aren't what they are. It just makes you a disbeliever of the truth. And at least based on my knowledge, my background with the work that I do. So research and history and culture and in my work, with my philanthropy and going back to Africa and things like that, I've learned so much and I'm so grateful.
Good.
The first thing I'll say is this: just because something is our culture, it doesn't make it right. Because there are aspects of culture that can definitely be wrong. Because I can tell you there are aspects of our original African culture that would make people here cringe.
I know.
So we can't necessarily always go by, well, this is just our culture. Because in some places, it's the culture to just let your children kind of raise themselves. Mm-hmm. And we don't agree with that. In some cultures, it's not okay to complain things like rape. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't accept that. So that's not okay. That's not right. And then the second thing is, whose culture exactly have we taken onto ourselves?
When we have so many
because
different...
when I saw it, I mean, the colors, the spectacle, it's beautiful. I love seeing my people enjoy themselves and having a good time. But I always ask, if you have to be intoxicated to have fun, then you have to ask yourself. Don't think about my question or society's question. Pose the question to yourself. What is it that I feel I'm inhibiting about my own self, my own personality, that I can't let shine without this intoxicant?
Influence of alcohol.
And the same thing with clothing. Why do I feel less appealing? Why do I feel less sexy, less attractive if I'm covered? There's absolutely nothing wrong with going out and dancing and having a good time and not having both your butt cheeks on display. There's nothing wrong with that. My thing is, there's no separation between logic and emotions when it comes to these things, because a lot of the times it's, well, this is what I want to do. We have the right to do what we want to do. Those are your emotions. But logically, you live in a society where we have to set examples, because when I looked at the parade, I saw adults and then I saw children. And then what I saw being exhibited in front of children, we will then turn around and point fingers at those same children if they start to assimilate to that type of behavior. If they start projecting that same type of behavior, we call them lewd. Mm-hmm. And we say that they have no respect and they're this
training,
and they're that.
You were not brought
but
up.
we are responsible. They didn't just drop out of the sky with that type of behavior. We are responsible for teaching them. So my question is, are we holding ourselves accountable for what we're actually allowing these children to see? Because if you're not going to separate children from the adult behavior during Carnival, then we have an ethical problem. And then that becomes a social problem, because they're doing exactly what they see. And a lot of the times, they're seeing their parents doing this.
That was my problem.
Their children are seeing, mommy is drunk and she's dancing with a strange guy. Mm-hmm. And, it's all fun until it isn't.
Good.
So, that's my take on it. I can't judge anyone's personal decisions, but we can definitely do better.
And I'm just like you. People have a right to do or to choose to do what they want to do. But you're living in a society where some accept and some doesn't accept it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the situations. I look, and just like you said, it's not about big people going out there, because then if you do that, then just like the TV programs that are rated,
Yeah.
whether or not it's content that children should see, and there's a rating from what age group they think that you can understand it, they will have that rating. What I saw was a child being held by her aunt while her mother was in the middle of a parade, and there was this guy have her in a position that I was there, the child was screaming, "Come off of my mother back."
Wow.
That is what touched me.
Yeah.
It sickened. I was packed because I really don't get involved. I was packed and I can see what was happening. But that was what touched me. The other one that touched me was I was parked again down by the Bay Road, and I saw this mother. I don't think somebody told her it is not something that you'd want your children to see. And she said, that is true. And she turned off with a little boy, he's about 3, and a little girl, she's about 5. I'm just assuming. And the little boy was holding, the mother was holding the little boy's hand, and the little girl was grabbing on the little boy, just want to walk up on his bottom. And I said, you see what that child walked away with?
Yeah.
And we as adults and people, I look at social media, and I do understand everybody, that's your opinion, and if that's what you want to feel, that's what you want, that's your belief, it's up to you. But at the end of the day, life is not just about you. It's about a society that we are raising. And then at the end of the day, when we look at our young children, missing young girl, the first thing, oh, she gonna go look for she man. Yeah, but again, how did I contribute to that?
Yeah.
We're talking about parents raising their children at home. Then that means you won't have an audience in town to look at your parade, because my children would not be looking at things like that. And I would not view it in my house, because my children would not do things like that. There's nothing wrong, like you said. There are cultures who cannot even show their faces. There are cultures who can't, their clothes has to be, you can't see any skin. So, everybody has a culture, but at the end of the day, in St. Kitts, we have people from different areas, different walks of life, different countries, and they too have their culture.
Yes.
And so you ask yourself, whose culture?
Whose culture? Because I think what needs to be considered as well is the fact that we give way too much credit to other things and other people, and even that word culture, because culture doesn't make us as people. I think that's inherently just very misleading. People make culture.
Exactly.
So we can reinvent the wheel on culture because we know better now. So if we know better, we should be doing better and not holding so tightly onto this culture, because we pick and choose, and we can't cherry pick and always go, well, it's culture when it lines up with our desires. And then we dismiss culture when it's something that is putting us on the right path. Because there are aspects of our culture that, push us to do certain things in a certain way that's full of integrity and very respectful.
Exactly.
But those are often the things that are pushed aside, and we hold on to the things that we and our desires line up with. So it's not culture, it's what you want to do as a person. It's about your desires.
And this is a fact. It comes down exactly to that, because we come from a society, I was raised in the same culture that people are talking about, where we understand morality. We understand that there's certain things you don't do as a young woman. We understand exposure. It was an offense to walk around in certain clothing, a bathing suit. You couldn't even drive without a shirt. And this is how serious it was taken. You couldn't go to certain places. Still, you can't go to the courthouse in strapless and sandals. So you hold those things. At one point, you hold that as, it's law. And another time, it's exposing oneself indecently. What about indecent exposure? That is criminal. But during Carnival, it's accepted, where you walk around, cheeks out, vaginas out, busts out, everything is out, and it's just It's fun. It's
It's
carnival.
it's a mindset, and it's this retraining of our minds to convince us that that's somehow liberation and freedom, sexual freedom, from what? What exactly are we trying to free ourselves from
Exactly.
by carrying ourselves and displaying ourselves in a certain way? And it adds to that narrative because I've had the opportunity, for example, to be in the Middle East. And I remember one day just sitting back and observing just people just walking along the street. And what I saw, and I thought to myself, what if this was the way it was everywhere? Where when you see a woman, you were forced to focus on what's in her head and not what her butt looks like, what her legs look like, what
Physical.
her face. What if all of us were put in a position where we were forced to assess and deal with each other in that way, where all you have is this person's personality, what's coming out of their mouth, their substance? Because I feel like a society like that, there's less competition among the women because they're not seeing what the other woman has underneath her clothes. They're not seeing whether she's shaped this way or that way. But we live in a society where all we see are these depictions of what beauty is supposed to be. And when we don't size up to that, or when we can't maintain or sustain that, then we start to question ourselves. We start to belittle ourselves and other women. We start to make those comparisons, even within our own friend circles. So, I find the culture word to it's interesting to me sometimes because the same thing one woman might be arrested for in one country is the opposite for what another woman would be arrested for in another country. There are some places where a woman walking down the street with her butt cheeks out, she would be arrested in some
Definitely.
places. And there are other places where a woman being fully clothed, she would be mocked. So it's all about a mindset and how we're really being raised and the principles and the values that we're being raised on. And if your worth from the moment you're a young girl, if it's being taught to you that your value and your highest worth is in, I don't mean to be explicit, but your ass, your hips, your thighs, and what your face looks like, then those are the least interesting things about us as people. I tell people that all the time, as flattering as it is, when people see me sometimes, if they mention, my physical appearance, I always say but this is the least interesting. If you only knew me, this is the least interesting thing about me.
I can have, it's, I love me, and I tell you why I love me. I have morphed. I remember when growing up, I was very shy. One of the most beautiful body you could have had. Prettiest face. Everybody used to talk about, oh, you're so beautiful. It upsetted me, and people never understood it. And then one day I was saying to this girl, we were having this discussion, and she said, Sandra, remember when? Yeah, and I said, that Sandra is this one. It has not changed. You were looking at the wrong thing. It's one of the most hating thing that people pays attention for me. They always reminded me, girl, you had a beautiful body, but I have a beautiful mind that you have never experienced. And I have, and for me, because you're going to change. And when growing up, I remember pageantry was another thing. I remember when I was asked to go in for Missing Kids. The first thing I said, I don't want to do it. My thighs are too big. It was the physical. Oh, we can work on that. And but I don't, and I found all of this excuses. I really didn't want to do it. Why? Because I recognized we were paraded as objects and not humans. It was about, you go in, your bathing suit has to be up a certain way, so you have to expose certain things. That was my biggest problem. I think I was one of the worst a contestant because it's some of the things I didn't want. I didn't want the makeup. I wanted to look like me. If I was not beautiful enough to go out, then I'm not going to be beautiful. I don't want to be painted. I want to display me. So if you really want to have a pageant, let's look at the people themselves and not the people that you would have created. And that's what it is. You go in, you become... When I see people on the stage and when I see them after, I can't believe it's the same person. So then you're unfairly judged.
Yes.
Because it wasn't you, it was
Yeah.
what they would have created. And I've always looked at it and people say, oh, your daughter. No, my daughter is not going to go into any, because I know now, if I knew then what I know now, I would not have done the same thing.
I say that as well. And I've told you
Yeah.
this as well. If had I known then what I know now. And even my mom, had she known then what she knows now, there's no way you would have gotten me
People-
on a stage. I don't discredit that part of my life because all of those things were necessary for me to become
who
the
you
woman
are.
that I am today. But I would not encourage my daughter to be in pageantry because
What is the
I
benefit
don't
of it, though?
feel that I don't think it's a necessity to have a woman parading around in a swimsuit to decipher whether or not she is going to be a good ambassador for a country.
Exactly.
There's absolutely no reason why heels and a swimsuit and all of
makeup.
that should be necessary for deciding whether somebody is worthy of an academic scholarship. All of these things can be judged on in different ways.
Have the
Their
conversation.
merits are what
Yeah.
we should be focusing
Look at
on
the
and
daily
not what they
life.
look like.
Exactly.
These platforms that a lot of them speak about, and the good that they want to do, whether it's the environment, whether it's healthcare, whether it's abuse, all of these platforms, they get a minute space and time in this pageant. Everything else is about the physical appearance. And there's this small little window where these women get to show their personality and their minds. And that's the area that really needs to be more focused
you're
on.
gonna be an
If the
ambassador.
intention is truly about finding good ambassadors and truly about helping these women advance academically or whether it's propelling them in jobs and careers and things like that, then find real merits to base these assessments on instead of parading them around so that they could be gawked at, judged, and then essentially deemed most beautiful.
yeah.
Because what happens is those remaining girls left on that stage, in spite of the smiles that they have to
They
maintain,
felt the feel
you now feel
unworthy.
unworthy. She was better than
That
me.
Exactly.
I was not enough. I did my best and I didn't do that.
was not
Still
good
wasn't
enough.
enough. And that's
I'm
the
not
hard
as
thing
beautiful
to
as she is.
exactly. And we convince ourselves that we're above it all and that somehow it doesn't affect us. Oh, I'm fine with it. And a lot of the times we're not. Even the friendships that they push, you're judged based on things like miscongeniality. And a lot of it is very fake because women will give you the best representation of themselves just to get that title as well. Because a lot of the times, real organic friendships are not created in that type of
Weeks.
competitive
Exactly.
situation, especially competition that is so based on physical appearance. Because in the back of your head, you're judging that other woman. Oh, why did she win? I have better this than her. I look better than her in this area or that area. We might not be saying it out loud, but we're thinking it. And that's what we're trying to avoid, putting women in these positions where we're forced to kind of look at ourselves and other women and judge them. Why do it when it's so avoidable? I'd rather compete with you for a job or for that academic scholarship or for that ambassadorial position based on my merits, my personality, and what's in my head.
So it comes down to, and I've always wanted to say that, who benefits in the end? Why? Sex sells, and that is one of the
The
reasons.
spectators.
Thank you. And the organizers.
Yes.
They're the ones who make the big money. They're the ones who
Yes.
walk off merrily, and the other people who did not place, and even those who place, you're gonna tell me going around parading my body is just, it's worth a watch,
Yeah.
a dinner for two, a cruise. I mean, how belittling is that? And like I said, if I knew then, you know what I won when I went in for the Miss St. Kitts competition and I came first run up? I got a white pair of shoes from the Nest. That didn't last, not even for 2 weeks. And that, and $1,500. And, I felt awful because I'm like,
You almost
is
feel
this,
pimped out.
is this all I'm worth? Me going around parading myself? It was it's after prize giving when I cried most. Because I'm like, this is what I did this for?
Yeah.
It was embarrassing. But at the end of the day, pageants are necessary because people benefit big time. It reminds me of the slavery when you clean up your slaves nice and oil them up and put them out there ready for sale, and people come and poke and feel and look and inquire. Okay, I'm going to take this one. We are continuing that. We talk about abolition of slavery, the slave trade, but look at the things that we're doing, and we realize it is the same old thing. It is the same thing. We're placing ourselves in the same position. It is one of the reasons why you would have contents to write about, you're my sister, not my competition, because we create that. Our world that we're living is competitive. It's not for us to live in a world where you become my sister. You always become my competition, because it's the life that we live. It's the environment that we were raised in. And people, you always have to look better. People concentrate on your physical. When I was looking at this girl. She was singing. She was born blind, and she's deaf. And she tap her music. It's the rhythm comes from vibration. And we see, and I'm like, wow, what an intelligent being. For her to get that rhythm, form her song, sing and perform so well. Blind, we don't see that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's an unfortunate
and
situation.
it we don't realize as well that we're not all being taught the same thing. And one of the things that we're not taught is how to really be tolerant and show compassion toward people who are not like us. Because how do you treat the woman who was taught that she had to, be an overachiever, and that she should look down on others who don't have what she has? How do you deal with that woman knowing that all of that didn't just come from her? That was a part of her nurture, her upbringing. So we often have to give the benefit of the doubt to other women. When I see other women being judgmental of others, now I'm a lot more hesitant to judge that woman as well, because I ask myself, what happened to her to make her so insecure? Or what was she taught in comparison to what I now know? Sometimes it's not a matter of I'm better than, because none of us are better than the other person. It's not a matter of us being better. It's just a difference of information.
Yes. And what you did with it.
Information and opportunity.
Yes.
Some of us simply had the opportunity to expand our minds, and some of us simply were provided with the information to kind of hone those really great attributes about us and make us the types of people that we are. But what do you do with that? When you get it, most people will just hold on to that. And I see a lot of successful people in the community doing it, including women. When they get to a certain level, instead of extending a hand to pull other women up and showing them how to chart, a course for themselves by kind of being a guiding light for them, you shun them. You hold yourself above them, put yourself on a pedestal, and you look down on them. My thing is, if we extend what we know, if we share what we know, the philosophy should be, I want for my sister what I want for myself. Because essentially we all want the same things. We all want to be happy. We all want some success. We all want our children to be healthy and safe. We all want these things. We want good relationships. So we're not all that different. We might look different. We might have different things materialistically. But when it comes down to the bare bones of it, we all want the same things.
Well, Jamal, I don't think that people understand the wealth of experience and information that you have, and how powerful you can use. I don't like using those kind of words, but the difference that you can make in changing the mindset of a lot of our young women. And like I said before, we have this talent and we overlook it. We bring people from overseas, we bring foreigners, but we overlook what we have. And I do wish, and this is going out to the government and people who are responsible, we have what we need right here to start changing mindset. Yeah. We are our sisters. We are not competitions. And we are creating a world of competitors. Just like you said, some people are given the opportunity, but I listen to people who have never spent one day in university, and I can hold a better conversation, because people have a misconception of intelligence and education.
Yes.
Education gives you information in a particular subject matter. An intelligent person has the ability to assess and analyze and come to conclusions of their own. And so I think that's one of the problems. So people feel if you don't have that paper, I have an accounting master's degree and I'm working at the hospital, you're defeating the purpose. You are just as dunce as I am who doesn't have any. And that is one of the things that people fail to realize. Everybody wants to become doctors now, and you can get them free if you have proper links and you come up with a certificate. Oh, you're a doctor, not necessarily a medical doctor, but everybody wants. I listened to this girl saying to this other girl, oh, you can't, sooner or later you can't talk to me because I'm going to be a doctor. And sooner or later I would not be able to continue this conversation because my time is up and there is Socrates and I really don't want to feel in front of it. But Jamal, you're here and we are definitely going to continue this conversation. For the time that you're here, it's every Friday at 10 o'clock. We have different topics that we have to discuss and people have to know that there's so many other things that we are not privy to, information that we're not privy to, because we don't have the right people who are basically teaching or giving that information. It was a pleasure having you here.
It was a pleasure to be here.
For those of you who wants to understand Jamal's life journey, it's on Amazon. It is the book.
And the affirmations is absolutely free. So that's a completely free gift that's separate from the book. So whether you get the book or not, those affirmations, they're my gift to every woman.
And I thank you for that. You're my sister, not my competition. And I want to tell you, this is Friday. It's time to let down your hair and you can take some deep breaths and some new affirmations that you can make. And definitely meditation is a must. But I'm going to tell you, keep out of trouble. COVID is a reality. There's some forms of all kind of virus out there and we are becoming infected. Continue to exercise protocols. Wear your mask. Social distance is a must at this point in time and sanitize. My name is Sandra Quilliatet and it was a pleasure. I'm going to pass on the mic to Socrates. He's going to be up next with Voices. Stay tuned to WINN FM 98.9. It was a beautiful day. Trent, you did not get any advertisement because you haven't paid your bill. So I'm not going to talk about them times because them times have not even given me a hamburger. So it's a pleasure. Continue to enjoy the rest of the week and the weekend is up next.